There is a moment in every person's life when they realize that the limits they feel, the boundaries they fear, and the doubts they carry are not walls built by the not world. They are walls built inside their own mind. And the moment you understand that, the moment you see that every ceiling you have ever imagined is nothing but a story you told yourself, that is the moment your life begins to change. Inside every one of us lives a version capable of things we have never done, achievements we have never touched, and a strength we have never fully expressed. But that version doesn't just appear. It slowly builds intentionally, brutally through growth. And growth is never easy. Growth requires you to face yourself, to challenge your habits and expose your weaknesses and to discipline your emotions. Growth is the doorway to greatness, but the key to that doorway is courage. This is what Limitless Growth Academy stands for. It's not a place, not a classroom, not a course. It is a mindset, commitment, a value take with yourself that you will never let your past define your future. It is the decision that you will stop negotiating with your fears, stop seeking permission for your insecurity, and stop waiting for the perfect moment to start, because the perfect moment will never come. You create the moment and you build the path. Limitless growth means you refuse to accept the version of yourself that you are today as the final version. It means you will challenge your beliefs, break patterns, and rewire the way you think. It means you understand that discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect. It is the truest form of love you can show yourself. When you hold yourself accountable, when you push yourself even when no one is watching, that is when you begin to grow without limits. The truth is simple. The world does not care about your excuses, your reasons, or your story. The world responds to your results. You can either complain about the life you have or build the life you want. And the only difference between those two outcomes is who you decide to become. So today, decide. Decide to commit to become unstoppable, grow. And when you make that decision fully, completely, your life will shift. Your possibilities will expand. You will realize that nothing about your life is fixed. Nothing about your identity is permanent. You are not a finished product. You are a project under construction, and the blueprint is limitless. Growth begins the moment you step beyond the borders of your comfort zone, and most people never experience their true potential because they spend their entire lives protecting their comfort instead of challenging their limits. They cling to routines that feel safe, to habits that feel familiar, to identities that feel stable, even when those things are the very chains holding them back. Every meaningful transformation in life demands discomfort, it demands sacrifice, and it demands that you face the parts of yourself you have spent years avoiding. When you step outside comfort, you meet your insecurities, your insecure doubts, and your weaknesses, and that confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is also the birthplace of power. The world rewards the people who are willing to be uncomfortable, the ones who walk toward difficulty while others run from it, the ones who choose growth over familiarity every single day. Comfort convinces you that you are doing enough, that you are good enough, that you are safe where you are, but growth whispers the truth. It tells you that you are capable of more, that you can become more, that your life can expand far beyond what you have known. The reason comfort feels good is because it requires nothing from you. It demands when no discipline occurred, no sacrifice. But the reason comfort is dangerous is because it slowly steals your potential without you even noticing. Growth is the opposite. It asks everything from you, asks for effort, consistency, humility, and courage. And that is exactly why it transforms you. The moment you choose discomfort on purpose, the moment you willingly walk into struggle, challenge, and uncertainty, you begin to build a different version of yourself, a version that becomes unstoppable because it learns to operate even when things are hard. Every time you push yourself a little more, stay a little longer, try a little harder, you strengthen the mental muscle that separates the average from the extraordinary. The people who achieve greatness in life are not the ones who had talent or luck. They are the ones who kept moving forward while their minds were screaming for comfort. Growth rewires your identity. It stretches your thinking. It expands your courage. And it teaches you that struggle is not a sign to stop, but a signal that you are entering a new level of yourself. When you commit to growth, you stop seeking easy paths and start seeking better paths. You stop asking for guarantees and start building capability. You stop running from fear and start using fear as fuel. Your life will always shrink or expand based on the amount of discomfort you are willing to embrace. If you stay where you are, you will repeat the same year over and over again. But if you step beyond what feels familiar, you will evolve into a version of yourself you imagined possible. Choose the discomfort that shapes you, not the comfort that limits you. Growth begins with a single decision, a simple choice to challenge yourself, to push yourself, and to prove to yourself that the limits you once believed in were never real. They were only comfortable. Discipline is not punishment. It is the highest form of respect. It is the act of choosing your future self over your present impulses, and it is the foundation of every meaningful achievement in life. Most people misunderstand discipline because they think it is something harsh, something restrictive, something that takes away their freedom, but discipline does the opposite. It gives you freedom. freedom, it gives you control, and it gives you the power to design your life instead of being controlled by your emotions, temptations, or circumstances. When you show up for yourself consistently, when you keep your promises even when you don't feel like it, you send a message to your mind, you tell yourself that you can be trusted, that you are reliable, that you are someone who follows through. That is where confidence is born, not from motivation, not from talent, but from keeping your word to yourself every single day. Discipline is the invisible force that separates dreamers from achievers, because anyone can dream about success, but only a disciplined person will show up when they are tired, frustrated, bored, or uninspired. Discipline builds resilience. It strengthens your ability to handle discomfort, and it trains your mind to do what is necessary instead of what is easy. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, every time you choose consistency over excuses, you are sculpting a stronger version of you are sharpening your mind and expanding your capacity. Your habits reflect your values, your actions reflect your priorities, and your discipline reflects your self-love. Your mindset is the architect of your life. It builds the ceilings you live under, and it determines how far you can go, how much you can achieve, and who you ultimately become. Everything you experience, every opportunity you pursue, every obstacle you face is filter the beliefs you hold about yourself in the world. If your mindset is limited, your life becomes limited, is expansive. Your life becomes expansive. It is that simple. Most people never reach their potential, not because they lack talent, opportunity, or intelligence, but because they are trapped behind invisible mental barriers they built themselves. These limitations come from fear, doubt, past failures, negative voices, childhood conditioning, and societal expectations. And over time, you begin to mistake those thoughts for truth. The danger is not the barrier itself. Anger is believing the barrier is real. When you accept limiting beliefs, you stop trying, you stop exploring, you stop pushing, you shrink your life to fit the story you have accepted about yourself. But your mindset is not fixed. It is flexible. It is trained. It's something you can rewire through conscious effort. The moment you challenge your beliefs, the moment you question the narrative playing in your head, you begin to break the mental ceiling holding you back. You realize that your thoughts are not commands, they are suggestions, and you can choose which ones to obey. A powerful mindset turns obstacles into opportunities, setbacks into lessons, and challenges into training grounds. It allows you to see beyond the temporary discomfort and focus on fulfilling the long-term reward. When your mindset is strong, you stop seeing failure as a threat and stop seeing it as feedback. You stop seeing problems as punishment and start seeing them as preparation. Failure is training, not identity, because failure is not a label that defines who you are. It is a lesson that refines who will become. And the problem for most people is that they treat failure like proof they are not good enough, instead of seeing it as evidence that they are growing, learning, and becoming stronger. Every failure you experience information, feedback, direction, and clarity that you could never gain through comfort or success. And the truth is that failure is one of the greatest teachers in life, because it exposes your weaknesses. It shows you the areas you still need to improve, and it forces you to develop resilience, problem solving skills, emotional strength, and strategic thinking, the qualities that are required for long-term success. But when you take failure personally, when you attach it to your identity, when you start believing that a failed attempt means you are a failed person, you destroy your confidence, you weaken your mindset, and you create a belief system that stops you from trying again. Failure is not a signal to quit. It is a signifying your approach to evolve your strategy and to grow beyond the level you were at when you failed, because every failure is proof that you attempted something challenging, something that stretched you, something that pushed you beyond your comfort zone. And this alone is a sign of strength, not weakness. The people who succeed are not people who avoid failure. They are people who refuse to let failure define them. People who know that failure is simply part of the process, part of the journey, part of the training required to become excellent at anything. You cannot master a skill without failing. You cannot build resilience without facing difficulty. You cannot strengthen your mind without experiencing setbacks, and you cannot grow without confronting situations that expose your limitations. Failure becomes dangerous only when you allow it to shape your identity, when you start believing that failing makes you unworthy, incapable, or powerless. But the truth is that failure does the opposite. Failure gives you the opportunity to rebuild stronger, to break your old patterns, to challenge what you thought you knew, and to force yourself into becoming someone more capable and more prepared for the next challenge. Every successful person has a long history of failure behind them. Failures that taught them discipline, failures that forced them to think differently, failure pushed them to improve their focus, failures that built their humility, and failures that ultimately shaped their greatness. If you remove failure from their journey, you remove their growth, you remove their wisdom, and you remove their evolution. When you stop treating failure as a personal attack and start treating it as part of your training, everything changes. You stop fearing mistakes. You stop your heads yourself back, and you bring yourself holding action with courage because you understand that there is no failure that can destroy you unless you give it permission. There is no setback that can define you unless you accept it as your identity. And there is no mistake that can end your journey unless you choose to quit. Failure is feedback. Failure is a tool, and failure is the mechanism that shapes your future self into someone wiser, stronger, sharper, and more capable. When you embrace the truth that failure is training and not identity, you become unstoppable because you no longer fear failure. You use it, you learn from it, and you grow beyond it. Consistency beats talent because talent may give you a head start, but consistency determines who finishes the race. And the truth is that the world is full of talented people who never reach their potential simply because they do not show up every day, they do not commit to the process, and they do not stay focused long enough for their talent to grow into mastery. Talent is a gift, but consistency is a choice that you make daily, a choice that builds momentum, a choice that strengthens your habits, and a choice that transforms your life. And the people who rely only on talent usually fall behind those who rely on consistent action because talent without discipline becomes wasted potential. Consistency is the engine of progress, the force that moves you forward even motivation disappears, even on days when you feel tired, even on days when results are slow, and even on days when your mind tries to convince you to quit. When you become consistent, you create a rhythm in your life, a rhythm that builds skill, builds confidence, builds discipline, and builds a strong identity. And every small action you repeat compounds over time, turning into bigger results, bigger breakthroughs, and bigger achievements. The person who trains a little every day will always outperform the person who trains intensely but inconsistently, because greatness, both daily repetition, through daily practice, through steady effort, and through showing up again and again until your current limits break and new abilities emerge. Consistency teaches your mind that you are serious, teaches your emotions that you are committed, and teaches your identity that you are becoming someone strong, reliable, and disciplined, someone who does not depend on motivation to take action. Talent might help you begin, but consistency helps you finish, because consistency builds habits, and habits shape destiny. And the truth is that every area of your life, your health, your relationship skills, your finances, your confidence improves with consistency and declines without it. You not need to be the most talented, the smartest, the fastest, or the strongest to succeed. You only need to be consistent, because consistent people outwork, outlearn, outgrow, and outperform those who only rely on raw ability. Consistent action creates a compound effect. A small improvement each day becomes a massive transformation over time, and the people who commit to this process eventually become unrecognizable compared to who they once were. Consistency is not glamorous. It is not exciting. It is not always fun. It is often repetitive, slow, and demanding, but it is the foundation of greatness, because greatness is built in the daily grind, not in rare moments of inspiration. The reason consistency beats talent, it's simple. It may help you win once, but consistency helps you win always. Talent may impress people temporarily, but consistency builds character permanently, and talent may create potential, but consistency transforms potential into reality. When you choose consistency, you choose to use long-term success over short-term comfort, progress over perfection, and growth over excuses. Consistency makes you unstoppable, because once you become someone who takes action daily regardless of circumstances, regardless of mood, regardless of obstacles, and regardless of distractions, you become a person who cannot be defeated, a person who moves forward no matter what, and a person who builds the discipline needed to achieve anything. In the end, talent sets the stage, but consistency writes the story every day. The person who shows up even with small steps will always rise higher than the person who only shows up when they feel like it. Consistency beats talent, because consistency shapes identity, builds mastery, creates progress, and turns ordinary individuals into extraordinary achievers. You become what you practice, because every single action you repeat, every thought you allow, every emotion you feed slowly shapes the person you are becoming. And most people never realize how deeply their daily patterns are programming them. They think identity is something you are born with, something fixed, something solid. But the truth is that identity is elastic, flexible, and constantly evolving what you repeatedly do. If you practice hesitation, you become hesitant. If you practice fear, you become fearful. If you practice confidence, even when you don't feel ready, you slowly become confident. The mind adapts to what it sees the most, what it experiences, and what it rehearses the most. And the most powerful part is that the mind cannot differentiate between what you do physically and what you rehearse mentally. The brain simply records repetition, and repetition becomes your nature, your behavior, and your future. Most people underestimate the power of small repeated actions. They think big change from big decisions, but real transformations comes from tiny choices repeated consistently. If you practice discipline daily, even in small things, like waking up on time, finishing tasks, controlling impulses, speaking with intention, you build a disciplined identity, and discipline in one area slowly spills in all other areas of your life. But if you practice excuses, laziness, emotional reactions, unplanned days, and negative self-talk, you build an identity that is weak, scattered, and controlled by temporary emotions, and your life will reflect that weakness in every major decision you face, because the quality of your life always comes down to the quality of your identity. And your identity is shaped by practice, not wishes, not dreams, not motivation, practice. Every single day you are wiring your brain, strengthening certain neural pathways and weakening others. Your habits carve patterns into your mind like water carving stone. And over time, those patterns become automatic reactions, automatic decisions, automatic beliefs. This is why people say that's just who I am, when most of the time it's not who they are. It's simply who they have practiced being for years. The beautiful part is that you can rewrite that pattern anytime. It is not easy. It takes consistency and emotional strength, but it is possible. And once you commit to practicing a new version of yourself daily, your old patterns begin to fade and your new self starts to take shape. If you want confidence, you practice speaking up, you practice standing tall, you practice taking action even when you're scared. If you want courage, you practice doing difficult things. You practice showing up even when it's unfundable. If you want its unconditional control, you practice pausing before reacting. You practice breathing before speaking. You practice choosing responses instead of being controlled by impulses. If you want success, you practice working. You practice learning. You practice showing up every single day, even when motivation is dead, because success is not something you receive. It is something you become through repetition. Your environment also plays a powerful role in shaping what you practice. If you surround yourself with people who are negative, unambitious, always complaining, you will naturally practice the same behaviors because humans mirror their surroundings. But if you choose environments where discipline is normal, growth is expected, and excellence is the standard, you begin practicing those qualities without even realizing it. Your mind adapts upward or downward depending on what it sees most often. At the end of the day, the question is simple. What are you practicing daily? Because whether you know it or not, you are practicing something. You are becoming something. Every action is a vote for the person you become tomorrow. And if you want to change your life, you must first change what you practice because you will always become a loving reflection of your repeated actions. Your mind will not resist. Your identity will not fight it. Your life will align with it because you truly become what you practice. You are not finished construction. Every moment of your life is an opportunity to rebuild, to reshape, redefine who you are and who you are becoming. Too many people walk around believing that they are fixed, that their abilities, their habits, their intelligence, and their strength are predetermined, that the person they see in the mirror is the only version that will ever exist. But this is a lie, a story that keeps them small, a story that keeps them stuck. The truth is that you are a work in progress. Your life is a canvas and the brush is in your hands. Every decision you make, every thought you nurture, every action you take adds color, depth, and meaning to that canvas. If you continue to accept mediocrity, if you continue to settle for less, your masterpiece will remain unfinished. But if you truly commit to the process of becoming it, you will discover a version of yourself that is more capable, more resilient and thoughtful than you ever imagined. The journey of self-destruction requires patience. It requires courage and it requires relentless self-honesty. It means facing the parts of yourself ignored, the fears, the doubts, the patterns that have held you back. It means looking into the mirror and saying, I am willing to change. I am willing to grow. I am willing to become. And then taking action, because desire without action, nothing but wishful thinking. Every day you are given a choice. You can either reinforce the old limited version of yourself or you can invest in the new limitless version. And this choice is not offerable. Growth is never comfortable. Transformation is never easy, but it is always worth it. The process of rebuilding yourself brick by brick, habit by habit, thought by thought is the only way to ensure that you do not become a product of circumstances. You become the architect of your life, the person who is not waiting for opportunities to appear, but is creating them, the person who is not waiting for motivation to strike, but is producing it internally through discipline and focus. Every failure, every setback, every rejection is a tool. It is a lesson. It is a signal that your blueprint needs adjustment, not abandonment. The under construction mindset embraces this reality. It does not crumble when things go wrong. It does not quit when the path is hard. It rebuilds, its strength adapts, it becomes smarter, stronger, and more determined. You are not defined by your past. You are defined by how you respond to it, by how you take the raw materials of your life, your experiences, your knowledge, your pain, and your triumphs, and use them to build a version of yourself that is unrecognizable from the one that once doubted, once feared, and once limited itself. To be under construction is to understand that life is not a series of static moments, but is a continuous evolution, and it is a commitment to constant improvement, to never be satisfied with me, always asking, how can I be better, stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more disciplined, more courageous? The under construction mindset is not a temporary phase. It is a lifelong practice. And those who master it discover they are capable of far more than they ever believed. They discover that limitation is only a mental construct, that strength is only built through consistent effort, that mastery comes from relentless repetition and learning, and that their potential is infinite. You are not finished. You are under construction, and every day, hour, every moment is an opportunity to become a more powerful, more resilient, more extraordinary version of do not waste a single one, embrace the process, trust it, and build the life you were always meant to live. In the end, everything we have discussed, every lesson, every principle, every truth leads to one undeniable reality. You are not defined by your past, by your failures, by the doubts or fears that have held you back. You are defined by the choices you make today, by the actions you take right now, by the courage you summon to step into growth even when it is uncomfortable, even it is painful, even when it feels impossible. Life is not about finding a safe path. It is about building a path. It is about creating the person you need to become to achieve the life you desire. Every habit you form, every discipline you enforce, every thought you challenge, every risk you take is a brick in the foundation of the future version of yourself, the version that is unstoppable, resilient, confident, and limitless. Remember that growth is not a destination, is a journey. It is a process. It is a commitment to never settling, to never quitting, to never accepting less than your highest potential. The Limitless Growth Academy is not a place you attend. It is a mindset you embody. It is the understanding that you are always under construction, and the construction is the greatest gift you can give yourself. So take responsibility, take action, and refuse to accept limits, because the only real limits that exist are the ones you place on yourself. Break those limits, expand your mind, strengthen your character, and rise into the life you were always meant to live. And when you do, you will understand that your potential was never in question. It was simply waiting for you to claim it, embrace your journey, honor your growth, and never ever stop building the extraordinary life that is waiting on the other side of fear and doubt.